also, and share it on Facebook. So
Good.
yeah, perfect. Then let all of them in. Yeah, hello everybody. We are just going to wait some seconds, until all of you have the ability to join and make yourself comfortable with the technical issues. Yeah, hopefully you could understand me well. Yeah, today's webinar will be our third webinar in a row, and it's going focused on animal traction. So thanks that all of you are here. Maybe my co-moderators could let the other people also in who are still in the waiting room. We see the participants are still rising. So yeah, let's wait another few seconds. Okay, there are still people incoming. Nice to see.
Daftar Ronald aski technical issues.
Okay. Yeah. I want to say a warm welcome to all of you who attend today. Daniel, I will mute you for a second. So yeah, hopefully every one of you could clearly understand me. Yeah, warm welcome from my side. I will do the technical stuff today, and I'm also a part of the 2000 square meters project in Berlin. Yeah, the partners from Kenya, the Seed Savers Network from Kenya, and our project 2000 square meters, invite you for today's session. And the session will be recorded. That's important if you want to share your video. So the video will be okay. I was muted. That's bad. Okay, so hopefully everyone could hear me. Then say it again. Today's session will be recorded, and the possibility could be that you could be seen in the recording. So if you don't want to be seen with your video, please make sure that you disabled your camera, and maybe change your name so you have the ability to do that. And then it could not be the case that you're could be seen in the afterwards recording. If you have some questions during the webinar, please contact us in the chat. You could easily use the chat and write the questions to all of us. And then Benny and Daniel, our moderators for today, will keep up that question and address that to the experts afterwards. And we will also share the video in the Facebook page from the 2000 square meter project. So you also have the ability to see us there. And there we will also going to publish the recording afterwards. Yeah, then I'm going to hand over to our today's moderator, to Daniel and Benny.
Hello, everybody. Very glad to see you, and I hope you can also hear me. Greetings from snowy Mecklenburg-Vorpommern, north of Berlin. This 2000 square meter project, who is co-organizing this session together with Seed Savers Kenya, is based on the idea that when you divide the entire arable land of the world by all the people in the world, 1.5 billion hectares by 7.5 billion people, then each and every one of us would have 2,000 square meters, 2,000 square meters of arable land to feed us. That's the basic idea. And we have such 2,000 square meters in Berlin, where we show, especially young people, what is growing on the global field, as we call it. We show all the different grains and legumes and so on and so forth. And we are very happy to be in a constant dialogue and exchange with seed savers in Gilgil, Kenya, which Daniel will shortly introduce. I am very happy to have a lot of experts today here on animal traction. And we have been usually showing on our 2,000 square meter field that we are eating too much meat. We are eating too many animals. And today we are showing you better don't eat the colleague. And we are showing how to work with animals and how important animals really are, not only in the past, but also in the future of agriculture. So over to you, Daniel.
Thank you very much, Benny. I am happy to also welcome all of you to this webinar today. Yes, my name, as you have heard, is Daniel Wanjama from Seed Savers Network. We are in Gilgil. Gilgil is in Rift Valley, near Nakuru, and we are between two lakes, Lake Nakuru, Lake Naivasha, and very close to Lake Elementaita. For people who have traveled, they might have seen the lakes. Yeah, Seed Savers Network is a grassroots movement that encourage everyone to use local varieties because they are better in terms of surviving without using chemicals, in terms of providing proper nutrition to the communities. And we are here in the room with quite a number of people. We have quite a number of people who are following the discussion with me, and we are actually following through the screen, as you can see, and we are quite a number of us in the room, as you can see. Some people could be also in some other places. We are in 3 different locations. There are some people also following about 150 kilometers from here on the north, and others in Western Kenya. And we are all very keen to follow this discussion and to get experience from German counterpart, the 2,000 meter square project, because everything that we are discussing today is also very relevant to us. In Kenya, the average farmer is small scale, less than actually 2 acres. Some of them 1 acre, others half an acre, which is basically 2,000 meter square garden. And we are also very keen to discuss this topic of today, the animal power or the animal traction, because most of the farmers here in Kenya cannot afford to have the kind of heavy machineries that policymakers would want people to turn to. And even if they were to afford, some of the machineries are too big to operate in the small gardens, and animal power could be the most appropriate kind of power or energy that we could use in cultivation of our gardens and transportation of our products from the farms and even manure. So that's why we are happy to have this discussion. And with me, we also have some other experts from Kenya. At a later time, we are going to introduce them. And we're also going to have some people speaking from the field, the practitioner who are using the animal power. And this might be a start of a debate that could excite people to turn to animal power and be able to appreciate the usefulness. We also have a lecturer from the college who also teach about power and animals, and that is a good start for discussion, because you also have students in the webinar. So I'm happy to welcome all of you, and I think just to kick off the discussion and to kick off the debate, I'm happy to welcome all of you and everyone to participate, but we have a short video that we have prepared just to kickstart the debate and the discussion. Thank you, and welcome to watch it.
Animal power in farming. The following video shows how to use animals as source of power in land plowing and transportation of farm inputs and produce. Michael Alfayo is a resident of Matia Ingose sub-location Mituba area in Kakamega County. He is one of the small-scale farmers in the village where he grows maize, cowpeas, beans, and nuts. He owns 3 acres of land where he normally practices his farming and has a family size of 1 wife and 8 children. When it's time to plow his land, he usually requires his 4 bulls, yoke, ox plow, and 2 gentlemen who usually assist to provide direction to the bulls during plowing. They hold the ear of the first 2 bulls, put the yoke on them, and loosely tie it around their neck. The same is applied to the remaining 2 bulls. A chain is then tied about 1.5 meters in between the 2 bulls, which connects to the ox plow. The bulls are then directed to the land to be plowed. Normally, plowing starts very early in the morning when the sun is not hot. It takes about 4 hours to plow 1 hectare of land, but in between the 4 hours, the gentleman and the animals takes a break of about 20 minutes. During this time, the gentleman takes their breakfast when the animals feeds on grass. They then continue for the remaining time until the land is fully tilled. In this process, an ox is kept standby at the farm for replacement in case one of the ox in action gets injured. 4 hours later, the land is fully plowed, awaiting to be planted. Transportation of farm inputs and produce is done using donkeys. This is another activity that requires 2 donkeys, a pulling cart, and 2 males who directs them. The donkeys are connected to the cart using 2 bars and manila lobes. The inputs are loaded on the cart at home, then transported to the farm awaiting planting. The same donkeys are used to transport farm produce after harvesting.
Thank you. Thank you for the video. This video was prepared with assistance of a practitioner and a friend of ours called Suleiman. And I think Suleiman is in the field with a farmer who practice this kind of technology. I don't know whether Suleiman, you can hear us wherever you are.
Yeah, I'm getting you very clearly.
Yeah, could you and together with the farmer say a word about this video and what you do with animal traction?
Okay, my name is Lehman from Seed Servers Network, and at this moment, I am in Kakamega County, western part of Kenya, and I am with one of the most prominent farmer who is using oxen as a source of animal power to plow his land ready for planting. So I won't talk so much because he is here with me and he will give more explanation how he works with the animals on the farm to ensure that this land is properly plowed. And today, Mr. Daniel, with others, I have two farmers, one that I hosted the video with, and the other farmers joined me also that he uses animals for plowing. But the host will say something about the video, then we shall continue.
Thank you. I'm Alpha Elonanga Kayo, born in Western Province, Kakamega County, Matia Ingose sublocation, Mwitumbu area. A farmer who is on a small scale farming. I do use oxen for plowing my land. Why do I do so? It is cheaper to use oxen than to use a tractor. A tractor always, when it plows a land, it compacts the land after plowing with its tires. And when you use the oxen, it is easier because the oxen does not dip the plowing. So the nutrition is somehow top. When you plant a seed, it is easy the roots of the seed to get the nutrition of the soil than that one you have used a tractor. Also, another thing, when you use an oxen for plowing, it is easier because when you have used the oxen, you are caring for it. It is easy. You use few money or less money than using a tractor, because a tractor will also need repairs and other things to buy when it is broken. So an oxen, what you do is only to feed it in the way you see that it has good healthy, and also it fits in the way when it comes in the morning for the time of plowing, it is so well fed and also well in healthy. So it is easier than the one who uses a tractor. Another thing, an oxen, it provides us with also with compost manure. Why do I say so? Cow dung is a very essential compost manure, which when we use it, it provides a lot of humus in the soil. So when you plant anything or any other crops that you need to plant on a land, it is easier. This for the growth of the seeds that you have planted in the land. Another thing, the feeding of the animal is not too expensive because we fed them only on napier grass. Another thing, we see sweet potatoes, veins, and also the stalks of the maize that you have planted in the shamba. Another thing, when you want to feed them, it is easier because you won't go further fetching for water, because to use an oxen uses about 20 liters of water when you want to feed it with water. So it is somehow easier. Another thing, may I say, when you use an oxen, you utilize your money in a small scale, because the money that you could have used in other things is now spent to other crops than using on the feeding the animals. So it is easy to get finance for other properties, and also you imply other things when you have used an auction. So when my land is up 3 acres, if I want to plant it, if I want to plow it, I just plow it for 2 to 3 days, then it is finished. The second time, I will also replow it also within 2 days. If it was 3, then replowing I will take only 2 days. That means I've saved the money that I used for the 30 day to now to the second day. To me, I feel that it is so somehow simple to use an oxen more than using a tractor. And a tractor always spoils the land because it tips the land in a way that the red soil comes up, which makes the layer one to lose nutrition, also to lose humus and many things in the soil. And when you have used a tractor more than 3 to 4 years, when you plant things, they doesn't grow in the way that they can grow when you use an oxen. That's why I feel my plowing is somehow easier, and also my land is so productive because I use the oxen for plowing. Another thing I want to say, if I want to hire an oxen, it is somehow easier to me because to get it is very simple. It is very easy. And also, when you call them to come, the same day that you have called them, they will come and also study plowing on the same day, using about 4 hours, and they do a lot of work more than a tractor. If you use it, you will spend more money than you have used what? An oxen. That's why I prefer the oxen more than a tractor. A tractor spoils the land, an oxen saves the land, and it makes a land fertile than a tractor.
Okay, that was the farmer, Mr. Daniel, with others. So he has just briefly talked about how he works with the animals on the farm and how the animals do the work on the farm, and also their maintenance. But as we continue the meeting, if there will be something to be added, he is still around with us until the meeting ends.
Do you have the bulls there? Could we see the bulls?
Yeah, the bulls are here. I can show you.
Or the farmer could show us. You're not a bull.
I am finding them.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So thank you, Suleiman. We shall have more discussions in the. We shall have some discussion later. Yeah, so maybe people and the audience will have more questions later. And thank you very much. As you're saying, you can stay there set with the farmer set, and maybe some people will have questions for you, and we are going to have a further debate. But I want to go back to Benny to introduce Julia.
Yes. Thank you very much. Julia and I, we know each other now since quite some time. And when she first joined our Save Our Seeds office in Berlin, she had an Iro style hair, you know, and but she was riding a horse in competitions, right? And since then, she has become a master of agriculture, and she has a farm she will be talking about. And she is still riding horses, but she is also working with the horses, and she is developing new technologies also in the use of the horses. And we are very much looking forward to get an introduction from Julia. You don't see that she is a farmer because she is in Berlin today, and the connection on her farm is not good enough to go live to the farm. So she had to come to Berlin to join us today. And over to you, Julia.
Yeah, hi everybody. I don't even know what to add after this introduction, even about my wild hairstyles over 10 years ago. But yes, like Benny is very right that horses have always been a big part of my life. And another big part of my life was political and human rights activism, which didn't really connect very well with the more wealthy, posh horse scene that we have in Germany usually. And agriculture is for me one of the central issues to answer a lot of questions all over the world, also questions of solidarity and getting together, and of course questions of climate change and soil health and so on. So I think bringing together at some point agriculture and the horses was the logical place to land at. And I'm quite excited to be sharing about this work. It's also a lot of technical stuff. I've practiced a bit in the last few months. Now I have to find the right buttons to share the presentation. And please excuse me if I'm still a bit nervous finding all of this, but I'll try my best. Okay, can everybody see it? Yes, okay, cool. So learning agriculture in Germany, we get in the agricultural school, and I went through the basic education, and then as Benny said, the master's degree, we get no input whatsoever on working with animal traction at all. It's, wow, somebody is putting big red arrows on.
Sorry, Julia, you have to take off the ability to comment.
I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, it's you see these sharing screen, the green bar.
Yes.
And there's an option section.
Mm-hmm.
And there you should be able to permit the comment function. There you have to tick it, or I don't know if you have to tick that you are able to do comments, or that you have to tick that it's permitted.
I have no clue where to do that.
Okay.
Maybe people can just try not to put red arrows on the presentation.
That would be the best way, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, this is a problem that for us, when we want to start with animal traction or even get the idea to do it, it is not at all, there's no hint in our education that that could be an option for us at all to do that. Our farm, I will say a few words, is also not typical for the surrounding. In the area where we live, there's a lot of farms of 2,000 hectares, 3,000 hectares in size. There's a lot of big machinery. We work on 45.5 hectares, which is, I always want to be clear because we're always talking with different sizes. So that's 1,124 acres. I had a look because here in Germany, we talk about hectares and somewhere else it's acres. And that's very small for the area that we are in. And we still work, as you see on the image, we work the greenlands, which are over 40 hectares. We work it with tractors still. And we have 3 hectares of arable land, which we grow vegetables on. And that has now in the last years been completely switched to the work with the horses and the ponies that I will be getting in. So just to give you a few impressions of the farm, we are surrounded by forest. We also work in the forest. We have the greenland, we have a herd of very old type of cow, as well as a herd of milking goats on the greenland, and of course the horses and the ponies. And the 3 hectares of vegetable production are planted very diversely. We grow 40 to 50 types of vegetables and up to 250 kinds of these, and mainly old varieties. Yeah, big diversity. So that also means that these 3 hectares of land are being put into very diverse small plots of land with a single culture on it. And this image I found on the internet because for me it shows a little bit of what is the surrounding we are in, and what then, yeah, how different it is in this surrounding to take the decision to work with animal traction. But still we are seeing all over that more and more people are going back to animal traction, definitely in environmental projects, in forest work, and in agriculture, I would say in the vegetables for sure. Of course, it's much harder to compete on very big fields in the grain production with drought animals. And in vegetable production, we see that we have total competitivity with that, because we don't drive over those fields quickly and intensely. A lot of things have been mentioned by the friends and colleagues in Kenya, that we see that our soil is much more healthy. We don't have the soil compression. Also, the force of how the animals work and the tools behind the animals work fits to the force that comes after that, because we have a lot of manual labor. And I've experienced when the tractor works the land before, it leaves back a land that is not easy to work in with your hands or with lighter tools. Definitely petrol use, climate change, also the high investment costs for petrol-driven machines. But I also want to say also the workers' health. I've spent a few years working with big, loud, heavy machines. I know what it does to myself, how different the days are when I'm actually walking on the soil that I work on. This walking being a very healthy element. I can hear the sounds, I can hear the birds, I can realize what is happening around me. And I have a friendly animal as a colleague. So that's also very, very healthy benefits for the work. And agricultural work is not always healthy. It's very hard. It's not paid very well. So I think it's important that we also take care that we create this work as beautiful as possible. I have a few images that I needed to share because, like, obviously this is not what my horse eats and needs. And it is as simple as that. This is what my horses eat and need. And also we have a big greenland, but my horses are also specialists in being able to feed on corners that we could not, like here, there's trees around. We could not even work them with a tractor, even if we wanted to produce hay on such a land, but the horses are able to feed themselves and in the same time create so much energy to do the work with us. This is just another image of also the beauty of it. And I'll get into the hardships of it because I don't want to romanticize the work, but obviously there's a lot of beautiful moments and sceneries that we have for ourselves, such as these images. And for me, this is important because as farmers, we don't go on many weeks of holidays or something like that. So we have these beautiful moments, but it's also dirty, it's dusty, it's sweaty. The tools often are hard, heavy to lift, and so on. And I also decided when preparing this presentation to put an image such as this, which was the first plowing I think I've ever done many, many years ago, with a very old rusty plow that was not working well, without education, without experience, on a land that was not worked on for a long time. And it was a terrible day. It was terrible. Nothing worked out. You can see the horse is running. We're running. It was too heavy. It was too hard for the horse. And the result was not nice. So I think it's very important to say that the lack of education, bad or the wrong tools, are often what makes animal traction unsuccessful, extremely harsh, or uncompetitive to petrol-driven tools. And I think it's very important that as people who have a passion for this, that we have to tackle exactly these things. And I'm very proud to defend that. I think animal traction in general, people always respond to it as being something very old-fashioned and backwarded, but that depends on how we handle it. And it also depends on the tools and on the education we have available in this field. So when we started with the horse work on our farm, we were looking around. These are images at that time that I searched on the internet. What is there? Who's working? What tools are there? So these are images where we were just like dreaming and looking around and not knowing where and how to start. A lot of these images, as you can see, are images with quite a few, many animals pulling very, very professional machines. We didn't have so many horses and the profession available to us. So it seemed like a very big step to start and to look at the Amish people and think like, wow, I'll just have 8 horses pulling a huge harvester. It was not something we felt that we can just do from one day to another, or that is available for us. And then we also had the issue of the very small plots of land that we work on, where there's not the space for such a big amount of animals to turn or such big machines to work on. I looked at great stuff like this, which is a front wagon, and it has a hydraulic engine which can lift the tools up and down, which can have hay production tools with, sometimes I'm lacking the English terms because I learned all of this in German, the Zapfwelle, which has an engine for such tools. So very, very impressive developments that prove that horsework is not old-fashioned, or animal traction is not old-fashioned, but it needs development and science and engineering to take us into a future, which is also important for our health, because let's admit it, lifting a 30 or 50 kilo rusty plow is not something that will keep our body necessarily healthy for the rest of our lives. I see a lot of work in this field being done by men. For me, it's very important to say that all body sizes can do this work, but it depends also on the machinery that is available to us. So it was a bit harder to get the start and find tools that are modern and that are also single horse drawn. And we started to look around, and we found an impressive association in Luxembourg, Paul Schmidt running this. It's called Schaff mat Pferd. So he's not selling tools, he's doing scientific research, he's developing, he also works himself with such tools. And then he works together with an engineer in Italy, with Equiidea, who then actually builds these tools once they have researched them and makes them available for us on the market to buy them, to have them when they are tested and gone through a lot of tests. So I contacted them both, and they both immediately responded, which was a lovely response. And not only did they pick with us the right tools for us, but they also said they would accompany me throughout a whole year of research on the farm. So they brought the tools, they came from Luxembourg, from Italy, several times throughout that year. They did professional measurements so that we understand which tool in our soil uses how much, needs how much draught force, so that there's also an understanding, which is important also for the animal welfare and your own farm planning, how many hours of which work in which tool, and how can I also change the adjustments in the tools so that it gets easier, so that my animal can also have more hours of healthy work together with me. So throughout all of this process, it was a great learning process for us. And you can see here a few images when we did the measurements. We compared old tools, modern tools, different adjustments of the tools. We looked exactly at what does it do with the soil, what does it do with our drought animal. And you can see on the right side, for example, the old tool of a similar kind, like the modern tool, and this modern tool being very simply designed. It's not expensive, it's affordable also to farmers, or it can be rebuilt with very simple means, but it was so much more successful than the old one we had. And even though it shows it does a very much more clean work on the field, it also showed in the measurements that it was easier to pull for our drought animals. So it was also keeping their energies. So here you see just a few impressions of all of this. When you see the same plot of land, and the bottom right picture where you see the grains that have started to grow, the right side was worked on with the old tool, and you see the old tool missed a lot of the herbs and weeds that we don't want to have on the field. And then even though they were small when we started the work on the field, they get big and they take over a lot, and contaminate our field. And from now, think back to this image of the terrible first plowing we did some years ago, and now look at this image. This is just how we start, one plot of land. We have become very precise with our work. It is a really big joy to be able to work precisely, be on time, not be exhausted. Nobody is running, not the horse, not us. Yeah, so I have a few short video clips.
According to the regional police chief,
and the tools, it's the basic soil preparation with the plowing and such, but then of course it's also the further cultures. The tools are made that we can change the different tools on the main frame depending on what we want to do. Down in the bottom right, you just see one example with the potatoes that we are putting into the soil, and then the big up left when we are taking care of the potato dams in the following days and then weeks. The tools you can decide if the animal is going on the left or on the right side of the dam, or if it is going right in front of the tool. You can lift and lower the handles, so you can adjust it to the size of the person who's working at this tool to not get a backache. So again, the precision and this precision also helping us in the culture care throughout the season, be it with the small young plants or here the high standing potato cultures that we are going through. And even if this big horse, Akla, who's my best friend, and he's doing 3 hectares, this one horse alone with me, and he's absolutely amazing, and he goes into the greenhouse with me, or he stands in these dams, not stepping on the top of them. Of course, there's certain situations that we found that the big horse, in the way how we grow with the diversity of plants, and in some of the places that are too tight, or the plants that are still very, very small, like these baby carrots here, that it's a bit stressful to go in there with a big horse, or we lose a lot of space. Like if we plant in the greenhouse, we cannot take the space of 60 centimeters distances between the cultures because we need to use every space we have in the greenhouse. And we had rescued 2 ponies, 2 small ponies, that I had never had the idea that I would be working with them, but then we thought, okay, we're at it. So yeah, the big horse might be laughing, but these small ponies, they have become amazing partners in the work of the care of the standing cultures that are already on the field. And you can see that we can work with them in the tightest of spaces. And here you see a close-up, really in the tightest of spaces, they fit in, and they don't crush our baby tiny carrots. So even this big field is taken care of with this very small pony, which has just a meter height on his back. And these are images of the hard labor by hand that you need in this kind of cultures and in the vegetable production. And now these ponies are taking a lot of this work off of our backs and our hands, because this is how small carrots are when they just grow out. So there's always a lot of manual labor involved, except if you have these beautiful ponies taking away some of that work from you. And here it's important to say, you see that there's still a very old improvised tool in the backside of the pony. So it's something where I would wish that some engineers come to see how great this benefit can be, even working with the small animals in the vegetable production, and help us possibly develop also a really cool modern tool for them. Another thing that makes me a fan of small ponies, I think similar goes for the donkeys. They are really rough out in whatever weather. They have joy. They need very, very little food, but take them seriously. They need the same serious attention and the same training like any big animal. And here's a winter image just to show to you how rough-taking they are, how smart and strong they are. And you can see they are quite cool, even out there in the frozen weather. And yeah, so then there's the forest work. So there's always the whole year around. There's proper work for us and the draught animals, and our strong, big and small work colleagues, because this is what they are. They are totally our colleagues. And yes, so we quite proudly end our days together. And I truly believe that if we take forward and exchange and learn that the draught animals are actually not of the past and not old-fashioned and not backwarded, but they are actually a future to tackle a lot of challenges we have around the globe.
Thank you very much, Julia, for this insight. We learned a lot, and you can see the Germans do real precision farming with the horses even, and that's great. I think there is a big future for animals in Germany, and we also have Klaus Kropp with us, who is, he works at a cloister, an abbey, and he's looking at medieval habits of using animals, but he's also looking into the future, and he will be organizing a global conference on horse traction soon. So Klaus, would you like to give us a short impression of your work? And by the way, I'm collecting questions that you may have in the chat, and we'll bring them up then once we get into the discussion. So over to you, Klaus.
Yeah, thank you. I think the colleagues prepared the little clip of for the conference, the info clip. Let me just point out one thing. It's not just about horses, it's about draft animals in general. So we'll see basically from dogs to donkeys, everything you can imagine about draft animals. And it's starting in the past, going into the future, tackling all the challenges we face in the 21st century. So yeah, just enjoy that little clip of the conference. And of course, attend the conference in May. We'll be happy to have you there.
Wow, this was a real tour around the world and the animal kingdoms. Klaus, tell us a little more about what you are doing. And I guess this conference will be an online conference in May.
Exactly. Maybe first a bit about myself. I'm an active ox driver in Germany, and at work it's basically an archaeological open-air museum showcasing how a medieval manorial site looked like 1,200 years ago. And back then, the traction of choice was basically cattle traction, and therefore we have by now up to 7 draft cattle, 3 oxen, 3 bulls, and 2 cows. We work basically everything on site with them, including forestry, but also agriculture and other tasks. And we wanted with this conference to connect the knowledge from the past with the future, and also showcase that there is still a lot to learn when it comes to animal welfare, for example, that there's better ways of traction, but there's also possible ways of land use which were common 1,000 years ago, which still can be of use in the 21st century. And with the pandemic, it basically planted the seed that we need to do a virtual conference, and this actually was a good thing, because by now I already can tell you that we will have presentations in that virtual world tour reaching from Colombia to Malawi to Kenya, Germany, North America, and we'll really try to get a big picture of where we're at the moment and where the road can go to. And as I know that there are many practitioners in this webinar today, I can only invite you to think about joining the conference, and even maybe if you like to provide a clip for that virtual conference in order to showcase your work, because everybody is basically playing the same game and trying to fulfill the same sustainable goal, and therefore we should work together and not invent the wheel all ourselves again and again. So I put it in the chat window where, when you want to register for the conference newsletter and have any questions about the conference, how to join, and so on, just give me an email and I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Thank you very much. Daniel, you would introduce our next speaker before we then come into the general discussion, right?
Yeah, thank you, Benny, and thank you all. And I'm very happy with the presentations. There is a lot we can learn from what has been presented, especially on tools and the innovations that are going on. I think the innovations and the research and development for animal traction here stopped some times back, and we have quite a number of challenges that need to be addressed. But before we can go to an expert for comments, I just want to give a small moment for Simon. Simon works with donkeys, and he is one of the farmers in the room with us, and he can comment a bit maybe about the challenges he goes through as we work with the animals. Before maybe we can hear a bit from Ronald, who is also an expert in animal powers. But I can see a lot of questions, and there are also other people who want to ask questions who are in this room, and we shall be opening up to the questions as soon as maybe we hear Simon and Ronald, just as some small comments. Karibu, Simon.
Thank you. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Simon Gadidi. From Njoro, sub-county of Nakuru County in Kenya. I do work with donkeys. That's where I get my daily bread. I have a cat. All I can say is that in Kenya, there is one problem.
What do you do with the car?
I do transport water, logs, and any other work I can do with it.
So you transport
specifically,
for a pay,
yeah, specifically for a pay. That's where I get my daily bread. I do transport things. Even if you want to relocate from wherever you are to another place, you can hire me. And it has been a very good job. It earns, and the only problem is that these animals are declining. There is shortage of donkeys, and especially since the Chinese came into Kenya and erected a slaughterhouse for donkeys. The animals has been told, the theft of these animals has become rampant, and we are no longer having them in plenty as we used to have them, because before Kenyans never thought that donkey meat is food, but today we are seeing these donkeys being slaughtered and being exported, and hence the theft cases. All I can say is that I don't know what the government can do, because even birth rate of these donkeys is very low. They don't give birth like any other animals. So it is an endangered species in Kenya, as I can say. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Simon. Simon is airing a challenge that is a problem that is cooking because of continuous slaughter of donkeys, and a lot of time people are not keeping them in large numbers, and the people who are selling donkeys are most of the time thieves who are stealing from people like Simon, who are making a living from them when they are slaughtered, and I hear only the skin is of interest to the market in China. But I could maybe give a moment to Ronald to say something before maybe you look into the questions that people are asking. Benny. Okay, Ronald, are you there? Ronald is...
Well, I don't see him at the moment.
Oh, he might have
Probably he just dropped out, and maybe he will come back as soon as we have him back. I have a few.
He has come back. I think he's the one who is coming back now.
He's just coming through the waiting room. I just let him in. He should be here.
Okay. Ronald, are you there? Have you come? All right. Maybe we can have him.
Maybe I can raise a few questions until Ronald is ready. And the first question I got from Daniela to Suleiman was about the veterinary care and treatments of the animals. How do you have problems with animal health, and how do you treat the animals when they get sick?
That question goes to who? Is it
to Suleiman and his...
Yeah, okay. Suleiman, are you still here?
I'm around.
Yes, could you let the farmer answer that question?
Okay. The farmer is a little bit away, but just maybe just second.
Okay.
The farmer is maybe we can just give him like 15 seconds in here.
Okay.
Okay, so the question was how we...
So we'll come back to this question later. He will be back, or here we are. Okay.
The difficulties that I meet when I place my house, I may say it's a disease that really attaches the oxen or cattle, such as East Coast fever. In the area that we stay in Western Province, you have a lot of flies which attacks the oxen. Then it makes oxen to get East Coast fever. That's the situation that really makes us, or makes me, to pass in through difficult ways, because the methods of treating an animal is very expensive in the sight of Kenyans. That's why I may say the difficulties that I pass in is the starting of the disease we meet in Kenya. Also, when you press the cattle, it needs also a good caring during the night, because we have some people who steal cows or who steal cattle. When they come, we call them thieves because they steal cattle. When they come, they can steal when you are asleep or when you have taken it outside in the field so that they can feed during the morning they come for the work. People can steal easily without knowing that it has been stolen.
Mm-hmm.
That is the place that really I feel it is so difficult. Another thing, when I press the cattle, it needs also a shed where it can stay, so they cannot meet heavy rain, or a direct sunlight on its body.
Shelter.
The shed where it can stay, it makes me to have a difficulty because it needs some money so that you can make a shed, a big shed where it can stay. And so the difficulty that I meet is that one. Also, if you press in a sun throughout the day and the sun is so hot, it destroys also some cells of the cow or the oxen. That's why I said it is another thing that is impossible to meet in life of a cow.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, I think, Ronald, you are with us and we can hear you.
Yes, I'm there. Yes.
Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, hello.
Hello, how is Germany or where you are? Bali?
Yes, I'm Benny from Germany, and there are plenty of Germans, but also quite a lot of people in different places in Kenya. And you are an expert in
compound machinery.
Okay, tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, as you know, basically what you're doing in Western Kenya, particularly in Kenya, we are dealing with machinery and more so the modern technology. But what we're going to do, or what we're planning for the future now, is to change the perspective of using the modern technology and back now to what they call the ancient technology. And as I can start now, you know, energy is the ability to do work. And you have quite a number of sources. We have water, we have geothermal, we have electricity, we have biomass, we have fossil fuels, and the last one, of course, is animal power. So for animal power, we have humans, of course, and then we have draft animals. When you talk of draft animals, we're talking of the engine animals. Those are the horses, we have the mules, we have the oxen, and we have the donkeys. So today we've been asked to talk about the donkeys. Now, why do we recommend, or why do we need these donkeys? The first thing is donkeys are friendly towards humans. Two, they're willing to work as a group, and they can turn in a very small space. Then you can easily train them. Then also they require little supervision. Then they can also utilize less feed. There are a number of importance actually. They can survive in drought. They require relatively low space to maintain them, and so on. Now, the first thing, even when to use a donkey, is to train them. Now, how do we train our donkeys. The first thing is roping and walking. So this one is done by just taking a rope, then you tie it around the neck or around the neck and around the head, then you walk around with the donkeys directing now to where you want it to go. And two is harnessing and walking. Harnessing now is the ability of you now trying to convince this animal to pull a load. So there are a number of loads they can pull and so on. The third one is hitching and pulling. You know, pulling now, that's a bit of now the donkeys or the draft animal to pull that load. Then the last one is working as a team. Now, using draft animal, where do you use these donkeys? The first thing is carrying loads. So these donkeys are able to carry loads up to 3 to 4 times their weight on their backs, and they can as well pull carts or wagons to around 1,000 kilos, or that's 1 ton to around 4 tons, the weight. Then the number of equipment the donkeys can pull as well. We have the first equipment there at the sledge. You know, sledge is a traditional cart without wheels. And these sleds, you normally get it from a Y-shaped tree. Then they treat the tree, becomes a cart minus wheels. And they can pull it now using the strains from the donkeys, and it can be able to carry some loads. Now we have other equipment for loading. We have carts, you know, carts, of course. We have wagons. So carts, I say carts are two-wheeled vehicles, sorry. Then we have wagons are 4-wheeled vehicles. Now, the other equipment for primary tillage, example of a primary tillage implement which a donkey can pull is a multiple plow. We have a ridger, we have adze, we have scarivisers, we have reapers, and so on. That is for primary tillage. For secondary tillage, we have all sorts of harrows. We have spring-time harrows, we have speckled arrows, and so on. And most of them are made from wood. Then now the spikes are metallic. Then we have, after secondary tillage, now what comes next now is planting or sowing implements. We have a number of equipment there. We have simple precision planters. We have super eco-sector and variation distribution planters. Then we have the workable planters that are made
Ronald,
from
your video is off, Ronald. We can't see you and we can't see the equipment. Is there a possibility of us seeing you or the equipment you're mentioning?
At
least we can see you now.
Hello? Are you able to see me now? But yes. I'm sorry to report that I'm away from the farm, so I can't show you actually the equipment. So maybe I'll prepare a video, then I can send you maybe by email or through the same forum next time.
Yeah, but there are some farmers here who have some question. Who wanted to ask a question already. Francis, would you want to ask your question now? You can come here. Okay, it's maybe you can respond to this question.
Okay, my name is Francis Giri from Seed Savers Gilgil, and my questions goes to the presentation brought by someone who was playing with using the horses. The way the horses were playing, it seems that they were properly coordinated and they were as if they were trained. If they were trained, how long does it take to train a horse? And is there special horses? Are there special horses which are trained, or you can just train any horse? Those are my two questions. Yeah, and even donkeys. There are some myths which goes around saying that donkeys are very dangerous, especially if it farts. That stench is very bad for you. That is one myth. And also it can kick you. How is it a challenge when training those donkeys? Thank you.
Julia?
Yes, the question for the training. So it's a mixture of the mental training of the animal, but of course also of the physical ability to reach to this level. So we generally say that before 3 years old, we don't put any physical like weight or any pulling onto their bodies, because their bodies are not ready. But even at 3 years, we only start to do that, because the skeleton of them still develops until at least they are 5 or 6. So if they have to do heavy work until then, they will not grow very old. And we want them to grow very old because we invest a lot because we love them, but we invest a lot into their training and so on. Of course, we teach them good manners before they are 3 years old. And we start to teach them directions. We work on the ground with them. We start to build this relationship and the behavior. And then we give the basic training for riding or for pulling, starting with 3, as I say, without putting weight or heavy pulling onto them. And then with 5, we actually start to really go into the work where they are mentally already prepared. They have this basic training, and you can start to put more weights onto their bodies. And then you just get better all of the time. I mean, for a horse, the spoken word is not the natural way to communicate. But I like to not have to hold the reins all of the time. I want to have my hands free for the tools, for other things. So I start with saying the simple words for left and right. And with a horse, I have to repeat this a lot of times until he understands where is left and right. Or if we're talking about a short term turn on the spot or a big curve. And this is a process of 2-3 years at least. And it's also very important that you never push them into something painful, or when they panic, that they don't have the experience of having a terrible accident, because they will lose the trust possibly forever. And if they panic, then we will land in very, very dangerous accidents with them also. So there's a lot of trust training involved, and I would say all of it is a process of a few years. My favorite way to be is to have old horses, middle-aged horses, young horses, because I can start to take the young horses bit by bit into the work. I can have them accompanied by an older horse. I don't put too much, they cannot work yet for many hours and heavy weight, but they can always keep on getting into the tasks bit by bit by bit. And you saw the image of me going to the lake, where I say this is also a nice relief for me. But these are also important elements for me in the training and also in keeping their body healthy, that they don't only pull, make short steps. They're like a bodybuilder who only does muscle training, but they never get to stretch, which will not keep them healthy as well. And I need to take them also out of the farm, into a village, into a place, so that they see a lot of different things and they don't start to practice, to panic. I teach them from the beginning plastic sheets, every kind of things. You know, everybody who works with these animals, they get fearful. Suddenly there's a big plastic sheet, bag, noise, engine noise, something falling over. All of these things can happen on a farm. So this is also an important element of the training.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Julia. There was one more question to you in the chat, and that is about the fitting and the design of the harness you use for the animals. What do you recommend?
So I'm not a specialist on it, and I usually tend to turn to the specialist, because it's a tradition of making these kind of harnesses here, there's a. You saw maybe on the images, or if somebody wants, I can share this image again. We have the I don't know the English word for kumt, but we have this harness going around the neck in front of the shoulders. So for heavy work, what I choose, not the belt around the breast or just a small belt around the neck, because if you imagine yourself carrying or pulling something, if you have a backpack with very thin strings, it will be hurting you, and you will not go in with all the force that you have. And since I got this beautifully handicrafted by one of the traditional people who know how to make it with this big pillow, and it's around the neck and in front of the shoulders, but it's not blocking any of the bones, and it has this soft filling. And of course it has to be very stable because it can pull 1 ton or more without breaking. But since then I see that my horse is really enjoying to lean into it, and he's giving all what he has, you know, because there's nothing hurting or pulling him. And even when we take big trees, you know, they are very heavy, and they may be stuck in the ground or frozen to the ground, and he will jump into it. He will shove with all of his force, and nothing here is hurting him, and he will not do it if this is not fitting him well. So I think it's important to get this advice from the people who really know how to build them, to fit it to your specific animal, to your specific work, and to always imagine, what would it do with myself if I have something thin and hard? Would I give all of my physical strength? No, at some point I would stop. I would not give all of it because it's cutting into my flesh.
Klaus says color is the word for what you are using, right?
Yeah.
Would Ronald or Klaus want to add anything on the harness question?
Yes, there was a myth that someone said that some animals are very harsh. I don't want to differ from that, but maybe it's true or not. But I think it depends on a number of factors. The first factor is the characteristics of that animal. So before you choose an animal maybe to train, just check on the history of or the lineage of that animal. If that animal, there's an history of that they are ash, just quit from that lineage. Then look for the best lineage. Then 2, we have the correct breed and the species. Then the correct sex, then age, training, and the right temperature during your training. Then thereafter also check on how you tame your animal, and how you train, and 3, how you put on those harnesses. Thank you.
Yeah, and Simon would also want to comment on how he trained his animals, his donkeys, because he worked with donkeys. Karibu, Simon.
Okay, I would like to respond to the question about how I do train my donkeys. There is some truth about the hostility of the animal. Yes, it is very hostile. It can kick, it can even bite. But just like the way a woman treats her child during birth and until the child is grown up, that's how we still train these donkeys. You learn to talk to speak to them. There's some languages we use. It reaches a time even when it is going into the cart, you just don't force it. You just show it the cart, you ask it to enter there, and you show them the way. And in fact, for you to get this animal working for you in a good way, you must give it some breaks so that you don't overwork their donkey. Then we need to take them to the veterinary officers for treatment, and the way we feed them. They know the timing. There is a time when it reaches that time, the donkey cannot move until you feed it. So they are hostile, yes, but we speak to them. We have to work with them. We just soothe them. And after some time, they are very good at the work. And if there are some young ones, then you just tie it next to these other animals. Those who have already been working. You join the other small one, so it follows the steps of the mother or the other donkeys. And when it is grown, then it will have that experience. So that's how we train them, we treat them, and finally, they are good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Simon.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
That's good information. But there is also, there is also another farmer who is here with us, Joseph, and he says he has a question, I think for Julia. You can come and ask it. You can sit here. He is using Zoom for the first time, I think, since he was born. So,
thank you. My name is Joseph. My name is Joseph Steven Mwangi from Kampiamoto, Rogai Subdivision, Nakuru County. My question is, I saw in German, they are very good horses and they are big and they are very huge. In Kenya, we have oxes, we have other cows, we have donkeys, which plow. My question is, in German, if you have these horses, how do you dispose them after they grow? In Kenya, Kakamega, we have oxen, and if they grow old or an oxen gets broken, a leg, and will not work anymore, how do you dispose these animals? Do you slaughter them and meat eaten, or do you dispose them while alive? That's my question. Thank you.
A very emotional question here, because obviously we slaughter animals also on our farm. I mean, we grow cows to slaughter them, and Klaus, I know, is working with cows, so I don't know how he would feel if he has worked years with them. I'm not giving you an answer that I think has the right of morality or something, because I eat animals and I participate in slaughtering. But I have to admit that when they are like my family members, or I called them colleagues earlier on in the presentation. So after working so many years together and living together and building this relationship, I cannot slaughter them. I actually keep them as in retirement. You saw the very big heavy horse doing the woodwork with me. One of the images was my old horse, who has passed away, Leo, and I still keep his bridle hanging on my wall. And he lived another few years on the grassland next to the young horses, because I could not reach the point to slaughter him and eat him, possibly, even though I eat the cows that we grow. So I can only give you an emotional answer, not a right or wrong. Yeah, but this is how we do.
What's your answer, Klaus? Do you eat your oxen?
Well, yeah, we do, basically. When it comes to, well, what we want to do is to give them the chance to have a long and fulfilled working life together with us. And our older team of oxen is 13 by now, and we hope we can work with them for a lot longer. And maybe one of them is not 100% there anymore, but we don't slaughter him right away. But when it comes to the question, when he's old and he cannot work anymore, to put him down and dispose him, I would rather eat him to close the cycle. And this is what, when I talk about cattle, it's a 3-use, especially when it comes to the cows. I have the milk, I have the meat, and I have the workforce. And I can nevertheless treat the animal right whole time of its life and respect the animal. But that's especially when it comes to systems where you actually need also maybe the meat for your own survival, and it's part of refinancing your workforce. That's a totally valid point to slaughter the animal and eat it afterwards.
Thank you. Speaking of the cycle, there is one more question we had in the chat, and that is, what do we know about the impact of plowing with respect to the microorganisms in the ground? Is there a special advantage? What can you say about that? The impact of the animals, not just the horses, also the oxen, on the microbiome of the land.
Was this question for me?
If you have an answer, it is.
We on our fields, we do a lot of soil analysis, and we experience the same what Julia said, that basically the soil compression when you work with draft animals is a lot lower. And also, well, basically you can compare it with low impact systems very well. And we also use cultivators for some of our fields outside the museum context, so no plowing at all, and it works just fine. And the microorganisms in the ground cope way better with it. And when it comes to diversity in a field with arable wheat seeds, it's also much higher biodiversity. Of course, you always have to think about it has to be sufficient. It's not like having some grains and lots of weeds, but it can be a good mix, and there are useful weeds which can help you, and you can also mix your seeds which work well. But what we learned is there is no turning back for us when we started working with the draft animals to go back to the tractor, because the advantages to the soil, especially when it comes to soil compression, is so big that we would destroy what we build up the years over the years when we would now turn back to working with tractors. And especially when it comes to, as Julia said, gardening or steep terrain, very complicated terrain, the draft animal gets more sufficient per square meter, so to speak.
Good. Ronald, are you looking at these aspects as well of soil health and animals? You have to unmute yourself first.
Hello.
No. Yeah.
Okay. So in Kenya, we are now asked to do what we call conservation agriculture. You know conservation agriculture? Yes, that practice of less disturbance to the soil. Now, if you use animal, there's less disturbance, because now we recommend now the use of the reaper implements. The reaper implements will less disturb the soil, and now we'll just be making some maybe around 5 or at least 10 centimeters depth for our seeds, then we seal our seeds. But now when you use machinery, there's a fraud now of us destroying the soil structure. And also because they're heavy and maybe you're applying when there's rain and so on, there's possibility of us now getting the soil hard. So there's a need for us to go for the animal power.
Thank you very much. There was a remark in the chat which says that in Germany horses are not eaten so much, while in the French cuisine, in the French kitchen, horses are more prevalent. I think that is true. There are different cultures of eating which animals to eat in general, apart from what Julia described in terms of what is the best way to pay respect to a colleague, right? Is it eating it and closing the cycle, or is it burying him or her in the end of the day?
I didn't say what is the best way, because
no. It's
I don't want to give a moral answer, because I think there is none. You know.
No, I think that was very, very well understood. It's a preference, right? And it's you have your culture, others have other cultures. There is not.
I've eaten horse before.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one more question. What about animal traction in rocky soils? It's a question to Klaus initially, but maybe Julia has also some comments on that.
Maybe I can do the start, and then Julia can just comment on it. Of course, it is, in general, it's possible, of course, but it involves a lot of manual work. When you look at traditional fields, open field systems, you have these little walls of stones surrounding the fields, and this is what you have to do all the time. And of course, you can use the animals again to get rid of the soil, the rocks, when you get them off the soil. But it's nothing which goes from next to the other year. It's a process you have to go through, but you can work on rocky soils. I've seen it myself in the mountainsides where colleagues worked with their cattle there, but it involves a lot of actual work to get these stones off the fields.
Mm.
I've visited and worked together with friend farmers in the south of France in the mountains, and that was steep and rocky soils, and we worked with it was horses as well. And also I've been part of plowing in Palestine in the mountains, where it was clay and rocks, which was really, really harsh. And they didn't have as heavy horses there because you don't have this breed like we have here. So it was quite skinny, very stubborn, strong, amazing horses. But they had to make the plow quite narrow, because when it was wide, it would get blocked against the rocks. So it was again about how to adjust the tool in doing this. And I can tell you, I've also worked in rocky soils with a tractor, and the elements of the tool that go into the soil, they had like a metal stick holding them that breaks when the rock is too hard, so that not the whole tool breaks, you know, they break and it opens up. And I had to get down from this tractor every 20 meters to put in a new bolt into this, you know. So it was like, I mean, I hardly ever got done with this field, and it was a huge tractor and a huge machine, and nature showed its limits also to this huge machine. And I think I would rather have done it with one of these amazing Palestinian horses with a simple plow than having to climb frustrated up and down from this tractor constantly, like really literally every few meters to put things back into place. So I mean, rocks are always a challenge in every work. And I live in an area, and our farm is in an area where we have another challenge, because we have no rocks and no clay, because we have only sand. So that's mechanically very, very easy to work on. And of course, it defines also how much drought force you need. I think I would definitely not be doing 3 hectares of field with one not even massively big horse. If it was clay, it would definitely need a second one in that size to do it. I also don't plow very deeply because of soil conservation, but also of conserving my drought animal. And the soil is not very heavy, but the soil is also very, very weak to sustain erosion, to keep humus in the soil. So our decision to work on our very weak soil with drought animals, I think, is even more, or not more important, I think it's important everywhere, but this soil, if we treat it badly with a tractor, if we open it too much and too strongly, it will be lost within years in the shortest of time in its fertility. So it's also very, very important to treat it extremely carefully, because sand is no good base to be fertile at all.
Okay, thank you. There was one more question on Facebook, and that is, have you ever considered no-till or direct drilling? I mean, we've seen now the animals being used to plow. What would be your answer there?
Is you me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Yes.
All of them. Also, like, Dominic might want to add something on these questions later.
We have considered, and we have also tried, like every year on one of our many plots we do, or on several of them, we try new things. I have to admit that the no tillage, in our case, we were just not successful. Maybe we don't know enough about it. It's the same like we don't learn about animal traction in the agricultural school. We also don't learn about regenerative agriculture methods. So it's up to us to have the time and also the money to visit trainings and courses. So I I think I would firstly say maybe we're just not good enough at doing it yet. But we're also trying to gamble between time, money. We have to also grow our crops and be successful to have something for the market. And we want to do organic farming. So we have also problems with mice in the ground. And when we didn't plow deeply or work deeply, the mice just reproduced. And for us, it's not an option to use chemicals. So we need some mechanical way. We have problems with specific weeds. Quecke is a grass that just does, keeps doing roots and roots and roots. And if you don't go under a certain level, and for me, plowing it up once and then scratching it out with another tool is just, in my experience, the most effective way of doing it. So possibly there's things that we haven't learned about yet. But the plow, and like I say, I don't go very deep because I'm aware that it's problematic, but I also experienced that using this plow once and having a well-prepared field means I don't have to do a lot of other things anymore in that season. When I tried not to plow, it was not well done. Then I came again and again and again, and that was a much more harmful intervention in my feeling to the soil.
Okay, any more comments on the no-till? Or I think in general, I understand that plowing with the horses is not such a heavy-duty, deep exercise as with the big machinery, right? And that is one form of adapting to the soil already. I wonder, Suleiman, did you have any experience with less low tillage, no tillage, direct sowing so far? Was this an option ever? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting you. So I can just ask you repeat your question for some moment.
The question was that I repeated from the group is, have you ever considered no-till or direct sowing without plowing? Is this a practice?
Oh, in western part of Kenya, mostly we usually just till the land and then we plant. So we don't practice what they have said, conservation agriculture. Mm-hmm. The reason is that during conservation agriculture knowledge, the farmers at this moment, they have no knowledge about conservation agriculture. So they usually just base their knowledge, what they can from the ancient time of plowing the land using the animals, and then they plant. So it has been doing so well for them. So that is why they are still maintaining it until now.
Okay, as you are here, there is another question from Gematua in Baringo County. Is animal traction also appropriate to cultivate virgin lands? Do you have experience with that? And that is probably also a question to close. The first cultivation of the land.
Yeah, the animals at this site, they are the most prominent and most appropriate to cultivate the virgin land, in that you see that when you are cultivating a virgin land using the oxen, the inversion of the slices of the soils, they are very properly. Those the weeds that were there in the land or are there on the land, they are inverted inside completely in the soil, thus making decomposition of those weeds. And there are some weeds which are so beneficial to that soil after decomposing. Thus the animals, they do best as compared to maybe the use of tractors, in that the tractor usually moves so fast and does not invert the furrows completely.
Okay, so it's especially good actually for...
I see Dominic is raising a hand.
Yes.
Dominic is raising a hand. Perhaps he can say something.
Dominic? Yeah?
Yes, I'm somewhere. Outside, because you can see the donkeys. So what we are the question based here in Kenya, what I've seen, second season we usually have farmers, they really disturb the soil. For instance, if they had planted, for instance, they had intercropped maize and beans, you find that when they are replanting, they don't have a very big gap between harvesting and planting. You find that there are those who choose not to disturb their soil so much. So it's a question in terms of whether it's necessary to disturb your soil, and also the status of your land, because there are those that, of course, if they are virgin or they have been left fallow for some time, you find that now the issue of land clearing and also primary cultivation will be necessary. Also, there is a time that we tried that here at Seed Savers, and what we did, we were raising watermelons, and they did so well. We just used some papers. We covered the ground, added some organic matter and also mulch. And then after some time, we did not have any vegetation. And when we planted our watermelons, they did so well. So it means also there are some other aspects that also need to be put in place for farmers to be able to practice it. But that is on vegetation. But for areas that farmers, of course, they ensure that they ensure that they do weeding in a good way. For instance, when they are almost coming to harvest their crops, then they can do some sort of the final weeding. Then their farm will be somehow free from weeds, and when they be planting, they won't be required to go back to primary cultivation for them to plant.
Okay. When you think someone want to ask a question, someone who is with Lydia. Lydia, I think you can have the farmer ask the question.
Good.
Lydia, are you there? Yeah.
He's
as
trying to unmute herself.
Maybe is struggling. She's struggling to unmute herself.
Yeah.
But as she asked the question, could Dominic show us that? I saw a bit of the donkey there.
No, Lydia made it.
Oh, she's.
Yeah, we can hear you.
My name is Jematur. I'm asking a question that for the case of steep slopes, how can we practice the proper animal traction for the case of hilly slope? Because we have some areas in Rift Valley which are quite steeper to cultivate even using the animals.
Who would want to answer this? I have to admit, I did not fully understand. Maybe could you repeat the question, or did you understand it, Daniel?
No, maybe.
I understood the question as when you're working on very steep slopes, how to put the right way with animals. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, because it's always difficult to work on steep slopes. It's a challenge for everybody in agriculture.
Yeah. So what would be your answer?
I think Klaus is the better one because I live in very flat land.
Okay, Klaus.
Well, there can be a matter of the proper harnessing. So depending on where you work, a different system of harnessing, especially when it comes to cattle, can help you work very steep soil. When you work with a color, for example, like the horse color Julia showed, they're adjustable 3-pad colors for oxen, for example, you will always have the problem that when it gets really steep, that this might cause a problem when you go down. If you use a yoke, for example, a yoke like you use in Kenya, showed in the video, or a neck yoke attached right at the back of the head and attached to the horns over the forehead, you have the clear advantage that the animals will break easier when they go down. So sometimes you have to think about different systems of harnessing, depending on where you work and what tasks you fulfill. Of course, at least for me, it's always important to also think about what is best for the animal when it comes to animal welfare, as some of the systems are not 100% animal friendly, but you can always adjust when you just take another animal, work with not with one, but with 2, for example. So there's most of the times a positive answer to give, and it's manageable. When the most steepest terrain I learned was the best to work with the neck yoke with cattle.
Good, fine. We have exceeded our time already a little bit. I think most of us with great joy. And I think this was really very informative. And I also appreciate that here we came to a real exchange between experts and between the audience from both sides. So I really enjoyed this. I would like to ask all of you, probably could you quickly show your face so we see who has participated in this exercise for a moment, and we can wave to each other. And I would also like to invite all of you to our next Garden to Garden dialogue on February 23rd. And I will share it with you also on the chat. You can look up this meeting again also under this link that I have just shared there. And I would like to thank also all of you for your attention and participation. I think it was really a nice atmosphere. It was a wonderful exchange. And of course, special thanks to our experts, to Suleiman and his colleague, to Julia, to Klaus, to Ronald, and also to Niels and Alexandra, who have been facilitating this. Thank you very much indeed, and I wish you all the best. And I hope to see you again in 3 weeks' time when we have our Garden to Garden exchange. And also maybe, Klaus, you want to share the link where to register for the international conference once more, because it has disappeared somewhere up there, but we will also put a link on our Kenya-German dialogues so people can look it up there. Daniel, thank you also for helping and facilitating, and the last word, as usual, is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Benny. And I wish to thank everybody who has joined this conversation today. It was a nice exchange, and we are happy that it has gone very well, and we have gotten so many questions. Unfortunately, I need to answer maybe one, because someone has asked about the donkeys and why people are killing donkeys. Yeah, it's actually a business. There is 2 factories for slaughtering donkeys in Kenya, and we have them being slaughtered for their skin. There is and the skin is exported. I don't know what they are doing with the meat, but the skin is exported. But there has been a lot of cries from the farmers and from the people who own donkeys, because even farmers are not benefiting because the people who are selling donkeys are thieves. The people who are stealing from farmers and selling them for the meat. So, and of course, the cries from the people has made a government close the factory temporarily. So we are happy the slaughterhouse has been closed a bit, and we are hoping that it is going to remain that way. And of course, I also want to welcome you for the next webinar that we are having, all of you, on 23rd of this month. Welcome back the same time. And this time around, we shall be talking about the gardening technologies and how even urban farmers could also grow their vegetables, and also they could make their own seeds, make their own fertilizer, make their own any pesticide without intoxicating the environment. So we are happy to share with you again, and I wish to give this opportunity to one of the interns just to say the last word and thank you all as we close. Welcome, Caro.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Caroline, a student from Bukura Agricultural College, located in Kakamega County. But currently I'm undertaking my attachment in Seed Savers Network. And for real, I'm very happy because of today's program. And first of all, I'll wish to thank the organizers of this meeting, starting from Benny, followed by the other members. Personally, I have learned a lot. And on behalf of my fellow interns, we are very grateful because in 90% or 100% of the colleges and universities here in Kenya, they mostly encourage the modern farming technologies. But through your program today, we have come to learn that animal traction is the best because first of all, it is environmental friendly. And when something is friendly to the environment, then it means that it is also healthy for human beings. Secondly, I'd like to thank my lecturer, Mr. Ronald, for finding time to be with us here. For real, we are students, we are much humbled to have him in this meeting. Lastly, I'd wish to thank all the people who have participated in today's meeting, starting from farmers who are here with us in Seed Savers. We are grateful. And with that, I'll wish to say that it's good to embrace this animal traction, because when you compare modern farming technologies with farming traction, you find that farming traction is the best. With that, I'm happy to be in today's meeting, and bye. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you. Let's end it here. Thank you.